Welcome back to The Outright Effect, a podcast in which unique perspectives challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. We're two ambitious women who talk about how we like to stretch our creativity and work on self-growth to become better people. I'm Tempsy.
And I'm Shelly. And today we're going to be talking about some of the things that we've been trying recently in regards to food delivery and meal subscription. So this might seem a little bit random, um, but if you're someone who needs to maximize their time, or if you want to try something new, support a new service, this might be something that you are interested in.
Definitely. So why did you try a food subscription business?
So first, I do just kind of want to mention that because I know our listeners are scattered, we've got some here in Hawaii, we've got some on the mainland, but the meal delivery, meal subscription type services here in Hawaii as far as I'm aware, anyway, they're all local businesses that operate within, mostly on Oahu. I'm going to say that's going to be my guess for sure. We don't. I guess Hawaii and Alaska, for some of the websites I looked on that serve the rest of the 48 states, they don't, have services here. So I couldn't get something like HelloFresh, or I think there's like Blue Apron, I think is another one,
Yeah.
right? There's like a few others out there. They don't serve Hawaii. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because the services I'm going to be mentioning about that I've tried or I'm aware of, I'm pretty sure they're only here. They also have local names, so I'm pretty sure they're only here. So one of the reasons why I wanted to try this, and this was more so last year in 2020. I haven't done any of these for 2021 so far, but there's one that I tried called Cow Box, which really just boils down to like food box, at the end of the day. And that one, the reason why we tried that is because the meals are mostly already prepared. So it comes in more so of like an entree kind of way. I'm not sure if I'm like describing this properly because I think, there are some other food like meal prep services here who in one container has like your whole meal. This is more like, they give you a chicken, they give you some veggies, and it's like 3 or 4 different entrees that you could probably have for dinner. So I personally felt like they were giving me like 3 or 4 dinner options is kind of how I looked at this Cow Box situation. They did also include some like fresh vegetables. So you get some stuff from like local farms and things here. And that could be like anything. It just kind of depends on like what was going on. It could be like a seasonal fruit or some other vegetables. Sometimes they would give you maybe a little bag of rice or a loaf of bread. And also like a dessert, like they had like a dessert of the week or whatever, and like everybody would get the same thing. So for this particular Cow Box, we would look through the menus. So they would like have their menus posted on their website, maybe about like a month and a half, 2 months or so out. And you could see what they were going to be having available every single week. So you could choose between subscribing and getting it weekly, or just kind of pick and choose here and there which ones you liked, which that's the route that we ended up going down. So for those of you who've been listening for a little while, you probably know I live in a household of 2. We don't need that much food. And so these boxes really helped us because if we wanted to cook one day a week, this would help with like another meal of the week and it would last us like 2 or 3 days. And so we would just kind of pick and choose here and there, obviously based off of what I'm saying. Doing it weekly would have been like way, way, way too much food because if we're getting a box that has like 3 or 4 meals in it and we're using like one of those once a week, that's like a month's worth of like food for us. We're filling it in with something else, something we're cooking at home, or maybe we're doing some takeout for the other, portion of half or so of the week. But we were able to stretch it out for quite some time. At the time when I first started doing this or trying this out, it was a pickup service. They didn't have a delivery option. But as time passed, and it was like at the time, right? This was something that was like born out of the pandemic. And so after time, they did add in a delivery option. I think at an additional charge of like $10 or $15 or something like that. But so far, I had been the one going and picking it up. So we hadn't done it for a while. At the end of the day, it turned out to be too much food. We would freeze a bunch of it and we could put it in the freezer, and they give you like the reheat instructions and everything like that. But we would like forget about some of this stuff in our freezer, open it up like, oh, what is this? Oh my God, it's been sitting here for like 4 months. Is it even so good? And so that's the reason why we decided like, maybe this is like a fun thing to do occasionally when like something's coming up where we know we're not going to be able to cook or something like that, but not something that we wanted to do consistently over time. There was another, it was more of like a vegetable delivery, I guess, service called Panda General Store. So I think it was like PGS. I think they had stopped operations for a little while, I think, as things started to open back up. But I think they're doing like some small version of what they were doing before. And we had ordered a couple of produce boxes from there, and it was like a lot of produce. Before the pandemic, like back in early 2020 or even 2019, there was, at the place that I worked at, there was like a vegetable delivery service that I had signed up for there. And I thought it was convenient. It was cool. It definitely got me to try different types of vegetables, which is why I wanted to do the Panda General Store delivery. It reminded me of that a little bit, and it was definitely a good way to get more vegetables into our diet. Especially because I wasn't like automatically getting vegetables delivered to me like every couple of weeks anymore. Yeah, those are some of the things I've tried. We currently aren't doing any of those things, but now that I'm talking about it, I actually saw something else online that I did want to try. I think it's called Oahu Fresh, which is also like a produce delivery. But really for like Chris and I, we wanted to like support local businesses because a lot of the produce that's included in these boxes are from local farms. And, during the pandemic, with so many things shutting down, I think that those local farms were typically like used to supplying restaurants here, but they weren't obviously doing that as much anymore when restaurants were closed or only doing takeout or having like limited seating. Like, they're not serving as many customers or needing as much food in their kitchen. And so, we're like, oh, like we should help them out. And I think, like, I don't know, I just felt really good about it, and it was really cool. I like to support local businesses, especially in the past year and a half. It doesn't sound good to say like year and a half-ish, at this point, like
I
that's not
know.
too long. But generally I would say like all these things that we've tried, it was a good experience. I enjoyed it. I haven't done it for a while, and now I'm like, maybe I should do a little bit of that again. But Tempsy has tried some new things lately as well. Not only me, hers is more accessible to most others, I feel. So why don't you tell us
Yes,
what you've been trying?
yes, the rest of the 48 states. But I actually had a question about the cow box.
Mm-hmm.
Did the protein come already cooked and you just kind of had to heat it, or you had to cook it from scratch?
Everything pretty much, I'm pretty sure everything came already cooked and we were just heating it up because it was literally like, put it in your microwave for X amount of time or like boil it in a pot of water, like in the bag. It came in like these vacuum sealed bags. And so you would just like put the bag in like a pot of water and boil it for like 20 minutes, probably to like evenly heat it up. It was all like reheat stuff. I don't remember anything coming raw. I mean, okay, wait, I take that back because I think they gave us like the fish of the week. I think there were some that were like that and the fish was raw. But if it was like chicken or anything else, it already came like cooked with everything on it already, like whatever herbs or, flavorings that they put on there. It was like meant to be that way. So you just had to heat it up.
Interesting. Yeah, so my experience is a little bit different. I think the reason that we decided to even try a meal subscription service, I was watching, this is kind of weird and from left field, but I was watching Dawn at the Minimal Mom. I'm kind of obsessed with this like minimalist mindset. And I'm not saying my family is going to become minimalist. I'd say like we're going to be minimalist adjacent eventually, but I think it's just more about what you bring into your home. But she was also talking about how you spend your time. And for her, she's like, we just tried these meals to see if it did save us time so we can spend more time with our family instead of like chopping in the kitchen and things like that. But I do think she was talking about already prepared meals, more like the cow box than what I tried. But I decided to try HelloFresh. And I just, for us, due to our dietary needs, we only eat fish and vegetables. Like we don't eat any meat. We eat obviously carbs and things like that. My family does, but I try not to eat as many carbs. So we have some dietary restrictions that have to be considered. But for me, I try to get as many vegetables into each dish for my family as possible. And so it takes me about an hour and a half after I'm done chopping everything, because I try to get as many nutrients in as possible. So for me, I was like, well, maybe this is a good option a couple times a week where I only spend 30 to 40 minutes cooking rather than an hour and a half. That's a good amount of time being saved that I could actually spend with my family. But the cost was going to have to come into play too, right? And so I looked into HelloFresh. There was a lot of discount codes that you could get from like podcasts that I've been listening to where they were like, use this code and you'll get 10% off. So I was like, why not try it? And so I chose 3 meals for 2 people per week. And I just wanted to try it for 1 week, but you kind of just set it up as a subscription. And it came out to about $8.99 per meal, which isn't too bad. I mean, I'm sure with how many vegetables we eat, that's probably how much our meals cost as well. So I was like, that's not too bad. I'm just going to try it. And honestly, if it saves me time, then I'm all for it. So I chose the vegetarian option. They do have a pescatarian option, but because I couldn't figure out if it was wild or farm raised, I figured, I might as well just get the vegetarian and use our own fish that we find that is actually wild fish. And I figured I could just add it to any of the dishes if I really wanted to. So the first meal was like a black bean burrito with rice, pico de gallo, lime sour cream sauce. There was like Messy Jane's, which is like a take on Sloppy Joe's. And they came with like finger fries. And then couscous with asparagus and tomato and some like feta cheese and stuff like that. So what I felt like was the food was really good. And another reason why I wanted to do this is to learn a couple of new techniques and add some recipes to like my repertoire, right? Because we tend to eat a lot of the same meals over and over, I feel like. And I was just kind of getting tired of making the same thing and eating the same thing. So I needed to add some stuff. So I was like, this will just give me a couple of other options, I think. And it did. That's definitely something that it did. The food prep was definitely a lot less. I think it saved me about 30 minutes each time. But in all honesty, there were more steps. So even more steps than what I normally go through when I'm cooking for my family. Usually I just chop up the vegetables, season everything, put it in a pot or pan. I might have to like boil some noodles or make some rice on the side. But that's pretty much it. But in this case, it was like several different steps to get to the end result. So I wouldn't say it was more labor intensive. It was just a different way of cooking. So I had to get a little bit used to it. And again, I did learn a couple of good ideas in terms of preparation. For instance, like there was these pickled onions that you had to make. And I'm like, how am I going to pickle these onions in 15 seconds? Like it takes time to pickle stuff, right? But all you had to do was put some lemon or some lime, like slice up this red onion, squeeze half a lime, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, mix it up, put it in the microwave. I think it was for a minute.
Oh.
And that pickled it. And it was delicious. So it's like, I could definitely use that. It's a great hack. So I feel like I got a lot out of this food subscription, not just the onions. I got 3 new meals I can prepare, right? And I got new ways of cooking things. The only thing I will say is that there are some spice packets that came with it that didn't like itemize what was within the spice mix, So if you're trying to learn a new recipe, you could probably like try to guess and figure it out. But a lot of the delicious flavor was probably a result of those flavor packets, if that makes sense. So
like there's already like this blend, but you don't know what's in the blend. So later on, if you're trying to figure it out, you're like, I think it kind of tastes like this and it kind of tastes like that. Like you wouldn't be able to like recreate it exactly later on if you wanted to, because it's not like there's like a HelloFresh store that's selling that thing off the shelf. You could just grab it and use it.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's fine. It's like like it'll say this is like a smoky seasoned mixture. So there's probably smoked paprika, like luckily having gone to culinary school, I can try to replicate it as best I can, but you're right, it's not going to be exactly the same. So that's a little bit of like, oh, that's kind of I wish they would put the ingredients in the back, because the point of it is to teach you, one of the points of it is to help teach you like understanding how to make, prepare foods for your family. So, that was a little bit weird, but it also includes less variations of vegetables. So like the Messy Jane, right? It was vegan protein, like vegan ground beef, and the seasonings and stuff like that. And then the pickled onions with like a spread, and then the finger fries. So for me, I usually have like broccoli, carrots, like at least four vegetables outside of onions, mushrooms, and like celery. I usually have like four substantial vegetables in each of my dishes that I make for my family. And so the Messy Janes, like there is basically potatoes and onions.
Mhm.
So, there's a little bit less nutrients. And I think that's okay a couple meals a week, but not, I wouldn't say 3 meals a week. 3 dinners a week should be without that many vegetables for us, right? Because we're trying to make sure we get enough nutrients. And then, the couscous dish was more of a side dish for us. So what I did was added, some wild salmon. So the salmon adds to the cost of the dish a little bit, right? Not a big deal, but just something I was considering. And the other thing is that I personally follow more of a keto-friendly diet, but I wanted to eat all 3 meals to really try them out, right? But my body doesn't really like processing carbs anymore. And so if I were to continue with less meals per week, if I decided to move forward, I'd have to modify them, right? I'd have to do a little bit of extra work, maybe put things over a salad and eat them that way, or make some spaghetti squash to put, to have some sort of like something behind what's there. So that would be something different that I'd have to do, right?
So one thing that I just wanted to point out and kind of throw out there is that I think, Tempsy and my cooking styles are very different, right? So she kind of mentioned as she was explaining HelloFresh that she has some culinary school experience. I do not have that. So although we can't get HelloFresh in Hawaii, I mean, I've definitely seen the ads. And I feel like I know some people who have tried it, and obviously Tempsy has tried it as well. Like people, like friends I have who don't live in Hawaii and who can actually get it. And I feel like those who really liked it don't have culinary experience, and they are using that as a way to cook at home, because otherwise, really, what they would be doing is like literally ordering takeout. Like that would be their primary source of like getting meals would be through takeout. And so they really just needed to like, kind of like what Tempsy was saying, the flavor packets or the spices that would come already blended. The friends that I know that who really liked HelloFresh and was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. They didn't want to figure out what was in it. They want to just open up a thing and dump it in there, and because otherwise they wouldn't be turning their stove on, at home to cook food for themselves. So I think, that's something that I kind of just wanted to point out, just in case if people were not aware of like the differences between maybe Tempsy. Tempsy has a lot more experience than I feel like most other people might have, right? Coming into the kitchen. Like I honestly, like one of the reasons why Cow Box kind of doesn't work a whole lot for myself is I don't like to eat food that has too much flavor in it. I'm used to eating stuff that's more bland. That's just kind of how I grew up. When there's like too much stuff going on, I tend to not like it because I'm either like not used to it or it's like too much of something. Like it's too spicy or too salty or too something. So that's kind of why when we were doing Cow Box, we would just kind of pick and choose those certain meals, because also like not only if we did a weekly subscription, it would be too much food, but I also probably wouldn't eat like most of the other things coming our way. So I would really pick the boxes where I'm like, okay, no, that's like, something typical standard meal that I would eat. But, some of those boxes, it is a little bit like fancier. It's like, in my opinion, it's definitely not
Yeah.
stuff that I would ever make at home or attempt to make. Like, I wouldn't even be interested to make some of that stuff at home,
Right. Yeah.
and that's not to say it's bad. It's just not within like my preferences. So I just kind of wanted to, throw that out there, like some of the differences that you might want to consider in case you're interested. I think it really kind of comes down to like, what is your lifestyle? What kind of stuff do you like to eat, right? And like, what are you trying to get out of it?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And another thing about HelloFresh is it doesn't necessarily explain to you how to small dice an onion. Luckily, I already know how to do that. And you can kind of figure it out. And if some of them are inconsistent, it's not like you're prepping in a restaurant, right? It's okay if they're a little bit different.
It's just at home for yourself, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. But if you wanted to learn like actual techniques, it's not really giving you that, although I didn't look deeply into the resources they have. Maybe there's something you can go on the website and it'll teach you how to do that. I'm not sure. But luckily I knew already. But yeah, you're right. I think it's definitely a good option for folks. And the good thing is too, is that if you don't like a lot of flavor with HelloFresh, you can cut back on the spice mixtures, right? Like you can decide, this is how much my family likes, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
That's good too. But yeah, I definitely think it's a great option for folks who are trying to cook at home a little bit more, who don't feel as comfortable in the kitchen. This kind of is like a step-by-step. And, those spice mixtures already being mixed together saves a lot of time too. Even though someone like me would like to know what's in them, I would prefer that it's in a packet, right? Because I don't want to take the time to put it together anyway. But if I did want to replicate it at some point, it would be nice to have it.
Yeah. And, like as you're mentioning kind of like the spice packets and things like that, like honestly, I would prefer like a service like HelloFresh where all that stuff is coming together and being like measured out and put in there for me already, rather than me following a recipe book and having to go out and buy like 5 different bottles of spices from the grocery store. Like from a cost effectiveness like perspective, I feel like, that would help me a lot, because that's just one thing that I'm getting like, a teaspoonful of, rather than like, now I have this bottle that I'm like, am I going to open it up again? Like, I feel like that's something that has definitely happened to me, like following recipes in cookbooks.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, they provide it all for you. So I guess it would be hard for them to like provide you a teaspoon of this, a half a teaspoon of that, and then like have you mix it together. But it would be cool to have the ingredients on the back. That's all. I don't think that we're going to do this moving forward like 3 days a week. But, I think that when my husband and I talked about it, maybe once a week would be kind of cool every once in a while. I don't know how cost effective that is for HelloFresh. I think the cost per meal is probably going to go up. So, but the flavor was super good. We really liked the flavor, but my husband didn't feel full after. That's the only other thing. So if you get it for 2 people, it's not like an American sized portion. He didn't feel like full after, but he said the flavor was really good. So I think that's good. And then, after a week, we were like, you know what, with our diet, we're kind of weird in terms of our diet. And that's not HelloFresh's fault. HelloFresh's meals were really good. We're the problem. So this would definitely be worth it from like a time saving perspective. The flavor is good. It's also beneficial if you're looking to add new recipes again, like I said, or to learn new food prep techniques. But when I went to cancel, and this is something I noticed when I got the box. So it comes in an insulated box with 2 very big ice packs. And I feel like those ice packs, it definitely says on them to use them again, like they're reusable. So we put those in our freezer because we're definitely going to use those again. But I'm not sure if we would need them every single time, but they have to come every single time, right? So you'd have like 20, if you got 20 meals, you'd have like 20 of these ice packs. I would feel kind of bad if I was throwing them away because I don't know what's in them, right? There could be chemicals, I don't think it's just straight up water. But
right.
I noticed that there was a lot of packaging. And so, because each individual thing, like there's a packet for like this mushroom soup base, there's a packet for the almonds, there's a pack, and they're like little sizes because it's only for 2 meals. So they break it down, right? And so there is a lot of packaging. And I was like, oh, that kind of hurts my heart a little bit. But it wasn't my primary reason for canceling. But when I went to cancel it, that was one of the options, is that I don't appreciate this because there's too much packaging, which I thought was really interesting. Like, I'm guessing that's probably come up.
Right. at least enough times for them to put that as like a, here's our standard options for
Right.
reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't put that as my reason because it wasn't my primary reason. And I did explain what my reasoning was. So I don't know if they really need that because it's kind of on us why we don't feel like we need to do it every week. But I just thought that was interesting. And I thought it would be a good thing to share with folks who are thinking about doing that kind of thing. I think that if your family is, pretty down the middle when it comes to food preferences, it's a really good option if you're trying to find something delicious that's easy to prep. I think it's a really great option.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's something that I would like kind of have fun with, here if we had it available to us. I do agree that I would probably also feel like bad about the packaging. Like I'd be like, can I, or even like the cold pack things, like the ice packs that it comes with. Like I
Mhm.
feel like I'd be that person. Do you have a pickup version where you don't have to put the ice packs in it? Because it's really not going to be sitting outside my house for like hours. I'm gonna get it from you and take it home and put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
um,
But another thing that we tried was Costco delivery. So we started this back when we lived in Hawaii, and this was at the start of the pandemic. We try to go to Costco and you're waiting in a hour-long line. So it basically took our 2-hour Costco trip and bumped it up to 3 hours because we would go to the one in Hawaii Kai, which is like a 20-minute drive, and then you shop and you go home, 20-minute drive home. It was like an ordeal, right? And so we were like, now we have to wait in a long line, staying 6 feet apart. Maybe we just pay to have it come. And we thought it wasn't any more expensive, but it actually is. So they tack on a little bit to each item. And then, of course, you tip the driver, right?
mhm.
So we thought it was going to be like the same price, but it was a little bit more expensive. But to us, it was worth it. So we didn't have to stand in line and have like a 3-hour Costco trip. I feel
Yeah.
like it was definitely worth it.
It's a convenience charge.
Exactly. And so in Hawaii, it was amazing. We kept doing it throughout the rest of the pandemic while we were in Hawaii. When we moved to Las Vegas, of course, we're going to keep doing it. They have Costco here, right? Well, what we noticed is the quality of produce being delivered when we were here in Las Vegas was not good. So folks in Hawaii are really careful and considerate in determining what's the best produce they can get for the people, because that's how they would want to get it for their own family, right? Like your natural instincts in shopping, hopefully for yourself, are that you would pick the best thing, right? And so people in Hawaii would pick the best thing to deliver to us. We really appreciated that because you can get a bag of broccoli and it's so brown and gross and disgusting. Half of it's bad already. And we eat a lot of broccoli. So in Vegas, when they were delivering it, the broccoli was just gross and some of the other things were really gross. So we ended up having to go back and return it. So it was kind of
You have to
like,
go to Costco anyway.
yeah, what's the point? I'm having to go to Costco to return it anyway. I'm not going to continue paying somebody paying a little bit extra per item plus the tip. Like this convenience tax is not worth it. It's no longer convenient.
Mm-hmm.
So we stopped doing that. My husband just goes every single week now because we're relying on avocados. We eat avocados every day. So we have to rely on them to ripen in the right amount of time. And Costco has the best avocados. So anyway, I digress. That's why we chose that food delivery route, but we had to end it because it just wasn't working out here. But I definitely appreciate the folks in Hawaii who care enough about picking the right produce for the people they deliver to.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, like I think I might have mentioned this at some point. I can't remember, but kind of talking about like food delivery. I know it's like it's different, it's a little off topic, but food delivery via like, a Bite Squad or like a DoorDash or Uber Eats, like that kind of thing. That's
Mhm.
one thing. I don't know. Anyways, so I know you like the convenience part. I don't. I'm like I don't want to pay like for these, one-time takeout kind of deliveries. Like when I look at that like delivery charge of like $7, I'm like, I'll just drive there myself and pick it up. Like I don't need to pay somebody $7 to, like, and some of these places are not super far away from me, right? And that's kind of where I like factored in. Like I drive a hybrid. Gas is not going to cost me this delivery fee. My car
That's
barely uses any gas.
that's
So no, I think I'm just going to go and get it myself.
that's so funny that you say that because we will not pay to have somebody deliver like already prepared food. We'll do it if we like recently we did it because we got I think it was like a $30 credit
Hmm.
and the delivery charge is not $30. So this delivery service, I can't remember who it was, but they were like paying for part of our food.
Oh, yeah.
And I was
Hey,
like, sure, why not?
hmm. Yeah, I know. Um, the funny thing though is where I live, I guess the addresses get really confusing. And so I guess someone with a similar address to me, I don't know. I don't know how the drivers get confused, but like I get other people's stuff delivered to me and it's like takeout food. And so sometimes it's like when I'm at work, so whatever it is like sitting at my doorstep for like 5 hours
Ugh,
for when I get home, and then I just pick it up and throw it in the trash, and then have to take the trash out. It's like kind of annoying, not gonna lie. And a
that
couple
is
times, like
annoying.
late at night, like I guess this person who's ordering, whoever they are, gets hungry at like 11 o'clock at night. And so I've literally like jumped up from the sofa, ran to the door because it's like it's contact free delivery. You know, they just put it on the ground like by your door, you know, and they're not handing it to you because of the whole like social distancing thing.
Right.
So this person like drops it and like is walking back to their car. I'm like running to the door, opening the door and being like, "This is not mine. You're at the wrong house."
Oh my
Like
God.
that's what's been happening. It's happened a bunch. It's like, and I think it's because like these delivery drivers, they're different all the time, right? It's not like one person servicing the area, right? It's like whoever's on the app at the time driving around, like I'll do a job right now or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like these people are gonna like learn and figure out like, oh, it's not that one, it's the one, you know, a few down. Like that's not gonna happen because it's like new every single time. But yeah, we've totally been like, hold on. I had like a pizza guy ringing my Ring doorbell like while I was driving, like pushing that thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even like answer it. It's like to tell him like I didn't order a pizza. I literally just left my house. You're at the wrong place. But he figured it out and he left. But most people don't figure it out and leave it there. And maybe the pizza delivery guy was expecting some cash like right there and then. So he was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
leave. You know what I mean? Where the other ones you're like paying for it through your app or online or whatever the case might be. But I actually did get someone's Costco delivery one time too during the pandemic. So it's like
Oh.
kind of funny. Someone knocked on the door and they like stood back as I opened it, you know, kept our space. And then I was like, they had all this stuff like down, you know, like they unloaded their car and like put it there. And then I was like, oh, this isn't mine. And they're like, oh, sorry. They're like, I'll get it all. Don't worry.
Oh man. That's like
But
10
it
more
was like,
minutes of being outside of the fridge.
yeah. I mean, luckily, you know, where it had to go is close, but they had to like load it all back in and then like, you know, drive a little bit farther. But yeah, that's happened to me a lot. Like last night, I was gonna order takeout food for the first time and pay for that delivery charge. Like, but where I wanted food from didn't even do it. So I was like, never mind. Okay, I'm gonna go pick it up. But then I was joking around with Chris, like, should I put in those other people's address so that it goes to the right place? Because whenever I put in like I don't know, like my mail goes to like somewhere else sometimes
It's
too, and
funny.
I'm like, should I put in the other person's address because we seem to always like get their stuff. Clearly, this
It's,
is where people think it is.
yeah, but you never know what's gonna happen to it, right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think, so one time, like almost every day, I was getting this other person's like lunch delivered. Like it was like in the middle of the day, like it was around lunchtime. And I
Ooh.
was like, man, this person must do this like for every single meal. I have no idea. I'm just guessing, like, because there was an error like 3 days in a row where someone was delivering their food to me. I'm like, they must be ordering food like quite often. So all the other times I haven't been like, people are definitely finding their place, but it's like quite a substantial percentage, I feel like, where they're mistaking the address and bringing it to me. But
Well, hopefully that person who keeps ordering food might listen to this episode and be like, oh, maybe I should try HelloFresh. Well, not HelloFresh, Cow Box.
Maybe I should try some other kind of service because my stuff keeps getting put in someone else's house.
But I when we ordered from it was Uber Eats. We ordered from Uber Eats. That's who we got the like $30 credit from.
Mm-hmm.
And they delivered it next door twice. And I'm like, my address is correct. Like, I don't get it. Is there something transferring over to you? I don't understand.
That's so
weird. To, like, run over and get it. And then I thought, well, maybe I put it in wrong. But then when Daniel tried to order, he got a coupon code, but you can only use it once per address, right? It's not like you can use a different email and still get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he tried and he's like, and it said, no, we already, this is not no longer available to you because we already delivered to you. And I was like, but they delivered next door. I don't get it. What's happening?
Like, you didn't really deliver it to me.
Yeah. But also it shows me that I did enter the address correct, right? Obviously.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But I don't know. I hope that this helps some folks because I had been hearing about HelloFresh and Blue Apron a ton, right? I listen to a lot of podcasts. And so I hear about it all the time. And I was like, nah, that's not for me. I cook myself. We have dietary restrictions, yada, yada, yada. But as I continued to think about it more, and because of that minimum mom talking about meal, saving some time, I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe spending an hour and a half in the kitchen from the minute I get off of work until we eat dinner at 6:30, I'm cooking. Why not? But I hope this conversation helps people think about their dietary restrictions and, how much they spend their time cooking, or maybe even on the flip side, like Shelly mentioned, how much you're ordering out, takeout. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to try something different. And it's not very much more expensive. I think it's actually cheaper, if I'm being honest, depending on what you set up, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode of The Outright Effect. You can find us at theoutrighteffect.com. Follow us on our social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at The Outright Effect. You can also reach out by emailing us at theoutrighteffect@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.